Hi everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca Stu The Crew. I'm Rebecca, and today we have some fun DIY projects from the Dollar Tree. We'll go over the supplies. There's a few items that come from different stores, which if I can replace it with a different item from Dollar Tree, I will. So I'll let you know what is optional. We'll use some wood stars, one of these packs of the wood hoops, and the wood panel from Dollar Tree, which was $3 in the Dollar Tree Plus section. We're also going to use some red, white, and blue paint and some stain. Any stain will do. We can use these furniture scratch markers if you don't have a scorch pen, which comes from Hobby Lobby. So those furniture scratch markers will work in place of it. Also, we'll need a heating tool if you use the scorch pen, and then these dotting tools. If you don't have them, you can use this dotting tool from Dollar Tree. We'll need some paint brushes and a small piece of a sponge. I picked up a bath sponge from Dollar Tree and just cut it down to size. We'll need some vinyl gloves, some ribbon of various sizes, also the berry garland. We're going to use the red and white, and the crafter square vinyl, some sandpaper, a little bit of twine. We're also going to be using push pins. We'll need 2 with a flat head, and then we'll need some hot glue and scissors. So let's get crafty. So the very first thing we're going to do is part 1. This is a 2-part project for the first one because this can be by itself. You don't actually have to put this with part 2, but we're going to use some of the wood stars and some paint. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint the stars red, white, and blue. I started with 2 stars for each size. So there's 2 large, 2 medium, 2 small. I actually started to add a few more towards the end because I realized it wasn't going to be enough to fit around the hoop that we're going to glue these to. But you can start with 2 or 3 for each size, and that way you don't have too many left over if you don't use them all. But we're going to make sure we paint the edges, and then also we'll paint the back once the front is dry. It's not necessary to paint the back. I always just paint the back because I like everything that I do to have the back finished as well. So we'll let those dry. Once they're dry, we'll paint the back. And now we'll go in with our dotting tool and we'll add some details to our stars. So the smaller stars, we're just adding these small little dots to look like stitching around the border of the star. And we'll do the same design for each color star on the small size. We'll do the stitches. And then for the medium size star, we're just going to dot each vertices or corner, and then 1 dot right in the center. And then for the larger stars, we're actually going to go in with some blue dots first and do all the vertices in the center. And then we'll take the white paint and we'll do in between all the blue dots to create a border. And then in the middle, we'll do a circle around the blue dot to create almost like a floral pattern. And like I said, we'll do this exact same design for each size, for each color star that we made, the blue and the white. The only difference is we'll change the color of the paint depending on what color the base star is. So for like this medium size blue star, we're going to use red paint for the dots, and then we'll add the white details. That's the large star, I'm sorry. And then for the medium size star, we'll use white paint for the dots. And for the small star, we'll just use the white paint for the stitching on the edges. And now for the white stars, we just used red and blue and did the same patterns. Once those are all dry, we're just going to start gluing these to our hoop. This is the larger of the 2 hoops that comes in the 2-pack. And those are the 2-pack of the Crafter Square bamboo hoops. So we're just going to start gluing them on. I tried to do a pattern of red, white, and blue and change the sizes so we don't have all of the large stars next to each other. So just make sure you alternate the sizes so you have a nice variety, but try to stay in that same kind of pattern with the red, white, and blue as you go around. And then once you fill in the first layer, then you can go ahead and layer the smaller stars in a few spots where you need to break up the color a little bit. And then we'll take these smaller stars I got from Dollar Tree and we're going to cover those with the glitter vinyl and it's just a sticker. So we'll place that on the wood and then trim around the border with the razor blade and then use some sandpaper to sand the edges. And we'll do about 6 silver glitter stars. This part is optional. You don't have to do the glitter stars. You could just paint more and use all painted stars. I just really like the silver glitter and thought it would look really pretty incorporated into our wreath. So we'll just put a little bit of sparkle. And I just evenly space these around the inside edge of the wreath. And we're attaching that with just regular hot glue. And here's what our hoop looks like so far. Now we're going to take some red, white, and blue ribbon. We have the red and white striped ribbon, some dark navy blue, and some lighter blue. We're just creating this X pattern, alternating the ribbon. Now this ribbon's about 10 inches long. And as you can see on the edges, I dovetailed them. So we've got those cute little peaks. And then we'll tie them all together in the center with a piece of twine. And I just pre-cut those off camera to save time. And then we'll fold this in half. Those are the tails of our bow. And now we'll take some more ribbon, same size, and we're just going to create a bunch of loops using hot glue. And once we have all of our loops completed, we will start layering these again in an X pattern, alternating the colors. And then once we've layered all of the color, we will tie it off in the middle with a piece of ribbon. I'm using this red and white buffalo plaid that was left over from Valentine's Day. And I'll leave the tails. I'll just dovetail them, and those will go into the tails that we've already created that we're adding to this bow. I'll use some more twine just to tie the bow off a little bit tighter. I wanted to make sure it didn't fall apart. And now taking the tails, we're just going to layer this bow and use that same piece of twine I used to tie the loops together to tie the tails to the bow, and then just adjust. And this is our really fun layered bow. We'll use some hot glue and glue this to the bottom of our wreath. I like to hold it in place until it dries just because some of the loops weren't laying down and the stars are layered. And since they're layered, I wanted to make sure that the bow really stuck down there just so that the glue actually grabbed hold of the ribbon. Now taking that berry garland, it's on a wire, so we're just going to start looping this around the wreath, and we're going to spiral it as we work our way around and then just kind of work it down in between those stars. You want to make sure though that you can still see the berry garland, so don't wrap it too tight. And we're just going to do one time around with the red berry garland. And then we'll go right around the middle of the bow. Then we'll cut off the excess, leaving just a little bit of a tail behind. Then we'll take that end and we'll slide it under the wire that we started with, just to help hold it in place. Now take a pencil or a dowel rod and you can wrap this berry garland around the pencil or the dowel to curl it, and then just slide your pencil out. And now we'll need the same thing on the other side. So we'll cut about the same size and we'll curl it around a pencil, slide it underneath of the berry garland that's already there, and then just twist it. Since it's a wire, it will hold on quite well. And then I took that twisted piece and I slid it underneath of the wire to help hold it in place. Now we'll take the same size of the berry garland in the white, and we're going to twist that around the dowel or a pencil, and then we'll fold it in half to create this V pattern. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. And then instead of slipping this underneath of the red berry garland that's already there, I chose to just use hot glue and glue it down underneath of the bow. And you will want to hold this in place until it's dry to make sure that it doesn't fall over or flop down to the side and lose its spot. And you really want to lift up the bow and make sure you're gluing it underneath. And then we'll take that same white berry garland and we're going to follow the same pattern that we did with the red garland, except we are going to do 2 passes. So the way you want to wrap it, or the way I wrapped it, is so that the red berries ended up in the center of the white. So it's like white, red, white. So as you're wrapping it, try to keep it so that you have white on either side of the red. Kind of like you're making the stripes on a flag. And then once you get all the way around, you can take that excess garland and go around the center of the bow, just like we did with the red. And then I just slid it underneath of the wire on the back. If you feel like you need to add hot glue here, you can. I found that it was on quite well and I didn't think it was necessary to add any additional glue. So far, this is what it looks like. You could actually just leave this as is, which is why this is the part 1. So here's some close-ups of the stars, the berry garland. It makes a beautiful wreath just all by itself, but we're going to add a part 2, which is where some of those additional supplies come in. So again, with the stars and the scorch pen, or you can use the scratch markers. And what we're going to do with the scorch pen is we're going to write USA on the little pieces of wood here. And then we'll add some stitching around the border. Now, if you don't have a scorch pen, go ahead and use those scratch markers. They will give you a really pretty effect that looks very similar to the wood burn effect. So we're going to use our heating tool. You could also use some parchment paper and an iron to scorch the marker, but I have a heat tool, so I'm just going to, it's kind of like a hair dryer, so we're just going to use that to burn the wood. And it takes a few seconds. Once the wood really heats up, it doesn't take too long for that scorch pen to change colors. And the longer you hold the heat on, the darker it will get up to a certain point. Once it gets kind of dark, like pretty dark, almost like black, then it's basically done. But you want to make sure that you're not scorching all of the wood around it. If you notice, I have just a regular piece of paper underneath of the stars, and it will leave some scorch marks on the paper. So it does get very hot. So you'll want to be very careful using the heat tool if you've never used one before. And keep moving your heat gun around so you don't concentrate too much on one area. That's how you get a lot of the scorching on the wood, is just by holding that heat element too close and too long in one spot. And so we're just about done with the letter A here. You can see it changing color and got a lot darker. You can keep going until it gets almost black. It's really up to you if you just want it to be like a dark brown or a lot darker. And then we'll go over the other ones until they're all done. And then we'll set those aside. Now we're going to take that $3 wood panel from Dollar Tree, and I'm using this stain that I picked up on clearance at Walmart. It was $3, but you could use really any stain that you like, but this is supposed to give like a scorched wood look, which I thought was really cool. The longer you wait, the lighter it gets. Once it's kind of soaks into the wood and dries, it kind of looks pretty dark black when you first start, but it ends up almost like a light gray color. It's really pretty when it's done. And so now that it's dry, we are going to take 3 pieces of twine and braid it. I have a red piece, a brown piece, and a blue and white piece, which was from the nautical section at the Dollar Tree over by their shore living items. So we just tie a knot on both sides once we have it braided, and then we'll glue those to the corner of the wood. Now take one of your push pins, and you can push it into the corner on top of that twine. I had a hammer, so I just hammered it in, but if you push hard enough, you can get it to push into the wood without the hammer. Now we'll take our wreath and just lay it on top to see where we want to position it. And then those USA stars that we made, we'll glue those to the twine once we figure out our spacing and how we want them to lay on the twine. So I added a hanger to the top of the wreath. It's just a piece of red twine, and I'm going to position it in the center, and I'll use one more push pin to attach this to the top of the wood. And we'll cut off the excess twine. So if you notice, I'm not gluing this frame down at all, or this wreath. I stained a few stars with the same stain that I used to stain that wood panel. Once it was dry, I used one star for the center of our bow, and I'll add a few more to the red and white tassels in different positions so they look kind of staggered. But in order to help space them out, I picked one color ribbon to glue all of the stars to. So I knew I had 4 of each color, and I was able to put one on each strand. And here's our very last star. And then I just added a hanger on the back using some twine and 2 more push pins. You can use hot glue. You don't have to add a hanger at all. It's really up to you. And this is what our sign looks like all done. I absolutely love this. It looks great by itself or with the backing. Now for our second project, we're going to use one of these large tag signs from Dollar Tree, some red, white, and blue flowers also from Dollar Tree, some ribbon that will coordinate with our project. I love this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I also have these blue ribbon or raffia from Dollar Tree and some twine. We'll need some hot glue and some scissors. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is take some zip strips as well, or you can use the twine, and we're going to use that to help fasten our bow. So we're taking some really large loops of ribbon. We have some burlap with the chevron pattern. We've got just some regular satin ribbon from Dollar Tree, and we're creating about 10-inch loops. They're quite large. And then we'll create this X pattern and just keep alternating the ribbon. Similar to what we did in the last project. This is going to be a real easy project. And then we'll take some tails that we made with the dovetail on the end, and we'll just layer those in the middle of the loops. And then just keep layering. We'll also add some straight tails of the satin ribbon. And then once you think you have enough, you're going to tie it off in the center loosely just to hold it in place so that you can tie it off with either a cable tie or some twine. But this helps hold everything in place while you're getting your supplies ready. So I chose to go ahead and use a cable tie. And we'll want to pull the center as tight as we can get it so that we have all of these pieces bundled together quite tight, and then it creates some really fun loops to make our bow. We'll cut off any excess and then go ahead and arrange your tails and your loops to create your bow. And we're still going to add some more to this bow. This is just the first part. Okay, so then I used that blue raffia and some of this mesh ribbon to create another bow, just wrapping some loops around my fingers and tying it off in the center. And then we'll use that raffia to add it to our bow. We're just adding it right to the center. And if you notice, it's a lot smaller than the ribbon that we used for the back of the bow. This is to help create a layered effect. And now we'll attach it to our sign right through the hole that's already at the top. So we're just going to create a loop, and then we'll push it through the hole, put our bow on top, and then put the 2 little tassels through the loop to create our holder, and then tie it off, and that will hold our bow all the way at the top of our sign. And that way we don't cover up the lettering. Cut off the excess. If you want to now, you can add some glue to the background to help hold it in place. I did not do that, but you can. And then I cut the stems off of a bunch of daisies that are red, white, and blue. I just picked these up from Dollar Tree. And I think I got 2 bundles, which was plenty. And then we're just going to keep adding 1 flower at a time and really fill in the center of this bow. So we added a few red and white to the center, and we'll add the blue to the top and the bottom. So we really didn't do a whole lot with this. I think the sign is pretty by itself. We just added some more detail to help dress it up a little bit and make it a really fun door hanger. And that is our second project. Very easy, just a large layered bow with some flowers. And now for our third project, we're going to need this star garland from Dollar Tree, some beads, ribbon, twine, scissors, and let's get crafty. This is just a long garland that we're going to make. I'm going to use this ribbon from Dollar Tree and cut about 7-inch pieces. And I'm going to need about, I want to say 6 or 7 pieces. Once we have it cut down to size, I'll also cut the ends of this ribbon to decorate it. We're going to basically be making just a garland. It's a garland already, but I really wanted to dress it up. It was a little plain as is. So we'll fold the ribbon in half and then fold it in half again so we can create this dovetail and cut both sides at the same time. Now that we have that done, we're going to take our twine and fold it over the end to create a loop. And that will be to help us hang it with. And then we'll start stringing some beads. We're going to do, I think, 3 beads. And after we have 3 beads on, we're going to take a piece of ribbon and fold it in the center. And then we'll loop it over the twine and tie it into a knot. I did not do a double knot, I just did one. And then once I have it on there, I pull it nice and tight and then fix the ends. Then you can slide your ribbon down and kind of fluff it open. And then we'll do 3 more beads. If you find it hard to bead your twine, go ahead and put a piece of Scotch tape on the end to create almost like a needle to help keep from fraying, and that helps you get the beads on a lot easier. Okay, so we've got 3 more beads, and then we pulled the stars off of the original piece of twine that it came on, and we're just going to attach it to the twine using some hot glue. Initially, I was just going to do the stars one-sided. I didn't like the way it looked, so I ended up doing them double-sided, which we'll see here in just a minute. So we'll add 3 more beads, another piece of ribbon, then 3 more beads, and another star. Then I flip it over and I add a star to the back so that you can't see that twine in the center. And I continue this process until I run out of stars. And you just keep alternating between beads, ribbon, and stars. And then for the end of our garland, we're going to take the end of that twine and loop it back through the bead one more time. And then just tie off your end to create a loop. And you'll tie a few knots in it and then cut off the excess. And you've got this really fun patriotic garland. You can put this on your mantle. You can hang it on a door. I just love the way that this looks. It's very simple, but it's so much fun. Okay, and now for our fourth project. We're going to use these small wood boxes from Dollar Tree. I have the small and the medium. We'll need some dowel rods. Also, we're going to use the wood stars and these arrows from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use 2 of the large. We'll need some foam and some Mod Podge. We're also going to use the red, white, and blue paint and some scrapbook paper. We'll need some paint brushes, rubber gloves, and some stain. We're also going to need some hot glue and scissors. We'll need some sandpaper and these balloon sticks. We'll need one with the stand, the balloon holders, and some ribbon. So let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do is take a ruler and a pencil, and we are going to mark off the top of our firework, and then we'll use the ruler just kind of like as the line for the center of our first firework, and then we'll use it on the second one to create some some diagonal stripes. And the way you decorate one side, you'll want to decorate the other side because this will be a centerpiece and you'll be able to see it from all sides. So now that we have our stripes drawn on, we're going to take some scrapbook paper, or you could just paint this or add glitter to the top yourself. I have scrapbook papers, that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to trace the top triangle of the wood sign. And then we'll cut those out with our scissors. We'll do 2 red glitter and 2 with blue glitter. And it's okay if this is a little bit large. Once you put it on your firework, you can trim it. So before we add the paper to the arrow, we're going to paint the border. So our first firework, the top will be red. So we're going to paint the edges red at the top. We'll let that dry. And then for our second firework, I decided to do blue at the top. So we'll do the edges in blue paint. It's okay if you get some on the top portion of that arrow, or we're going to glue the paper on because you're not going to see it. Then we'll add some Mod Podge to the top of the arrow and add our glitter paper that we just cut out. Be generous because the glitter paper is quite thick. So we did both sides of the arrow. We'll set that aside to dry. We did the blue as well. And then we'll let that dry for a while. Now we'll take our red, white, and blue polka dot paper, and I'm going to do those same vertical stripes that I did earlier. I actually moved the paper over. I could see the lines that I drew earlier so I could follow along, but it doesn't really show in the video because I had moved it back by this point. So we'll need to cut 2 of these because we'll have to decorate the back the same. So we're just cutting diagonal stripes and then up the side of the paper. And like I said, we'll do 2 of them. And before we glue the paper on, we are going to paint the sides of the firework. And since that paper is blue, some of the stripes will be blue. And then the other stripes, I will paint the edges the same color. I believe we did white, so I ended up painting those stripes white. And then we'll do all the painting on the surface before we add the scrapbook paper. And that way, if we go over the lines, it won't matter because once we put the paper on, it'll look like a nice crisp line. And you won't be able to see where you painted over the lines at all. You actually want to go over the lines a little bit. That way, if the paper's cut a little bit short, you can't tell. And then we add our Mod Podge once the paint has dry and start adding our scrapbook paper. And then if you want, once you get the paper on, go ahead and go over the whole thing with your Mod Podge to seal it. And of course, you'll do the same process to the other side. Now for our second firework, we're going to paint a red stripe right down the center. And then I painted the edges red. We'll paint the back center red as well. And again, it's okay if you go over the lines. It's actually probably the best idea. We'll add some Mod Podge and then our sparkly paper. And then we'll flip it over and do the same on the opposite side. Then I have these stars. I wanted to decorate our firework a little bit, so I decided to paint a few stars white. And we'll add those in a zigzag pattern to our firework. And now we'll let those dry. We pull apart our balloon holder and we're going to dump out that cement, but we'll keep the sparkly or the shiny paper. Now take your two balloon holder sequins or stems and you're going to glue those to one of the fireworks at the bottom to look like sparks that are coming out the bottom of the firework. Now I'm taking these little tails that I cut out of our burlap red, white, and blue star ribbon. We're going to glue the center together and then pretty much like doing a fan fold, we'll fan fold the sides back and glue those together to create this little bow. Once we do that, we'll glue two of them together. And then once we have two glued together, we'll fold them in half to create like a fan. And we just have two of them. And we'll glue them on either side of our sparkly stars and tassels here. That looks like our sparks coming out of our firework. And then we'll use that sparkly paper that the balloon holders were wrapped in. I cut them into stripes and made them look like the ribbon. And we'll add a little bit of this to the inside of our rockets here. And you'll see we're just going to layer these. Let's add a lot or a generous amount of hot glue and then layer over the center so it looks like it's shooting off in a different direction. Then I use some twine at the bottom, some red twine, to tie them together just for some extra added support. And then I made another bow that we're going to glue to the back. And you'll just want to hold that in place and make sure it sticks on both sides just with the layering. You'll want to make sure that it is sticking. And then we'll add a small blue star right to the center where we tied them together with that added support of that twine. And now we'll work on the base. So we're going to take these small boxes and we're going to stain them. Again, I'm using the charcoal wood look. It's just a water-based stain that I picked up at Walmart on clearance for $3. And you just brush it on with a sponge or a damp cloth. And you want to just use a tiny little bit, and as it dries, it turns almost like a dark gray color. We don't need to do the whole entire inside of the boxes. If you choose to paint these or use stain, really you just need enough that when you layer the boxes, you won't be able to see the part of the box that is not stained. So this will be our base. I know there's a butterfly in it, but once you put it together, you won't see it. It's really not necessary to do the bottom, but I do stain the bottom. Definitely stain the sides because you'll see those. And then our last layer, make sure you remove all the stickers. I forgot to do that beforehand. And again, we're just going to finish the stain. And like I said, you don't have to do the whole entire inside of the box, but it's really up to you how much you choose to stain it. If you're worried about seeing the inside, then you'll definitely want to stain as much of it as you can. And then you'll know when this is dry. You'll want to wait probably about 10 or 15 minutes before you glue it all together, but you'll know when it's dry because it starts changing to a lighter gray color as it dries. If there's some spots where it looks a little thick, you can go ahead and use a microfiber cloth from the Dollar Tree to brush off the excess stain. And then we're just going to use hot glue to glue this all together. When you glue this together, just remember that that bottom lid has holes in it. So when you add your glue, you'll want to put something underneath of it to protect your table in case any of the glue seeps out of the bottom. So we'll just keep layering these boxes, and then we'll have this really cute stand at the bottom. So now we're going to take one of those balloon holders, and we are going to put some hot glue on it and glue that right to the center of our base. Now take one of the balloon sticks, and you're going to measure how deep the box is, and then cut your stick down to size. Add a dowel rod to the center for extra support, and then you'll glue those to the center of your fireworks. And then a little hot glue into the base. Then go ahead and just slide the stick right down into the center, and then hold it in place while it dries just for a few seconds to make sure it doesn't topple over and that the weight is adjusted, but it should hold just fine. Then to add extra weight to the base, I went ahead and added some foam. You can add a pool noodle, some floral foam. It's really up to you. I chose to use a pool noodle just because that's what I had on hand. Now, once the base was filled in, I took some more of that shiny paper that the balloon holders were wrapped in. I just cut small squares and then fold them into triangles, add a little bit of hot glue, and filled in the rest of the base where the pool noodle is to cover it up. And that helped add some more sparkle shooting out from the bottom of our fireworks. And I did this all the way around until I had the whole base filled in. Now we'll do some optional sparklers, which you can add to this project, which are a lot of fun. I took some wood skewers from Dollar Tree and the wood stars. I'm going to paint the skewers white. I made 4 of them. And then we'll paint some red, white, and blue stars. We'll do both sides. And then we'll add some details like we did before with the dotting tools. And they can be the same or different. I even did some of the stars with stripes on them, so they had a little bit more design than the last ones. I added some different dotting designs to the center of the stars as well. And you'll want at least 4 stars for each skewer. Then we'll take some of that blue raffia, tie it into a knot like you're going to make a knot, but leave the loop open, slide it over your skewer. And then you can go ahead and tie it tight. See how I leave the loop open, slide it up the wood skewer, and then you can trim those little pieces off on the sides. Then you can just open them up and slide them up and down the wood skewer a little bit if you need to. Arrange them and then glue your stars on top once they're dry all the way. And we're just staggering these on the front and the back to create these fun little sparklers. And I chose to use the blue raffia, but you could use some glitter raffia or something there, which would look cute as well. Then we're just going to slide these in between the base and the different layers of boxes. You can add some hot glue if you want, but just have them popping out the sides to look like some extra details and little sparklers coming out from the base of our fireworks. You could even cut some of the skewers down to make them a little bit shorter so that they layer better. And that is our rocket ships all done, our little fireworks here. I love this as a centerpiece. I think it'll look so fun on a picnic table for the 4th of July. So here's all of our projects that we created today. I know it was a long video, but there's lots of parts to those crafts this week. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And here are some other videos from our channel you might also enjoy. I hope you have a lovely day.